So we're going to jump into what we liked, and I'm sure the Switch Pro was your favorite part of the entire thing with all those huge enhancements you're getting.
I mean, dude, seriously. I mean, this 80-inch. I had no idea the Switch could expand to 80 inches, and I could see Mario's nose hair. So
Exactly. I mean, so. But we're going to go ahead here and watch some of our favorite trailers and talk about what has us excited about those games. So let's switch views. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm first.
You are first.
Sweet.
How it got pulled in.
Can't believe this is real. Can't believe it. Oh, man. This was the Nintendo stream was the one stream I didn't get to stream on my channel. So I kind of wish I did, because when I saw this show up on my screen, I lifted myself out of the chair while the headphones were still attached to me. And I was like, no!
No, connected still.
It was the pain I was worth it.
Mm-hmm. No, this one looked awesome. I like that for whatever reason, they haven't messed with the Metroid formula that much in any of their games. They've kept very much the kind of the side-scrolling type feel to it, and I like some of like the small enhancements of adding like the stealth piece to it, and just little things like that to like add a bit more like tactical play than kind of just run and gun.
And this is coming out, and we still got Metroid Prime 4 coming out soon too. So how freaking cool is that we got these to alternate?
Yeah.
But dude, I mean, the wildest thing, man, I don't know if you read this, but Dread was a reference in Metroid Prime 3 back in 2007, I want to say. Huh. So this is something they've been talking about, because it's like this was like supposedly like an experiment, like the experiment of Dread, which I guess is what you're going to discover with these robots. Yeah. That was supposed to be the next game in the 2D franchise. It was supposed to be the sequel to Fusion. And this game has been ruminating and building itself. Like, people have been trying to build this game in Nintendo for, like they said, almost 19 years. So this game has been rumbling around in people's heads over there for almost 2 decades. It boggles my mind that it was taking so long, but that they still remembered to do it and showed it at the C3 Direct. That's the amazing thing about this.
And I like the continuity of it too. Like, a lot of times Nintendo is not always known for its continuity in its game franchises. And I think that's awesome to kind of see that this one is kind of keeping a pattern to it and kind of keeping things like, hey, we have a history, we have a timeline, we're sticking to it. Because I mean, I know Zelda, it has a mess of a timeline to try to keep track of at times with like, well, then you have to split here for the kid when the adult's going this way, and then they intersect back here again. And
oh, but wait, then Ocarina happened, and then
yeah. So it is exciting to see continuity in the stories, because even though it's not a huge story-driven game, there still is story to Metroid as you're playing through them, and seeing kind of just the universe expansion a bit on it is a cool bit there.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, no disrespect to the Prime franchise. I mean, I love all the Metroid Prime games, and I'm definitely still excited for 4 whenever that comes out. But I mean, 2D Metroid. I mean, I must have beaten Super Metroid on Super Nintendo back in the day at least 10 times. Like probably more, man. My teenage years was obsessed with that game just because there's so much to explore in that world. Every little nook and cranny had some kind of lore it was trying to tell. And then they expanded that to Fusion. And I only got to play a little bit of the remake of the first Game Boy game. It was Samus. I think it was Metroid Samus Returns was the one that came out a few years ago. But it was a remake. So this is like the first real sequel to a Metroid 2D franchise. But those games are just it was just so amazing what they were doing. And even where we are now, obviously we've got like, indie studios doing homages to 2D Metroids and Metroidvanias all over the place. But I don't know, just looking at that trailer, like you could say it's maybe not doing much of the formula, but again, like the execution of it is what matters most. I feel like there's enough in there, like with the parrying of the attacks you can do in here, that I think makes it stand out enough that it just makes me excited to go play this when it comes out in October.
And that's always what I've loved about the Metroid and even like the Contra games is they're not complex to look at, but they're still hard games that make you think like, how am I going to tackle this problem in the limited space I have to tackle it in?
Yeah. It's Nintendo's design philosophy. Like they will hold your hand enough till you have to know exactly what to do. Like, so when you finally get that upgrade, oh, well, now I can go to this area this way. They're very good. I mean, they've been doing it for decades at this point, and it's a tried and true philosophy. I mean, it works for them, and it's why they still stand out today. So, I mean, I'm totally down for it. This is just got me so excited to see this again.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's going to be a good one. The Switch has had a lot of surprise games that I've really ended up loving more than I expected when I first got my Switch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because I was a little worried coming off of the Wii U era of like, all right, what do you got, Nintendo? You're kind of falling off here.
I think they're smart too, because now they don't have handheld anymore, because that's basically the Switch.
So they're not having to support two platforms.
Exactly. So now all their studios who used to support the DS and the 3DS and all their other handheld platforms, now they can just all develop for Switch. So I mean, it still worries me from a third-party standpoint, because they still will struggle to get that, especially being the underpowered system against the other two systems. But I mean, at least the first parties will know the tech enough to be able to take advantage of it. And with them now having the full breadth of all their first-party studios, since there's no solo handheld, unless you got a Switch Lite. But anyway, it's all Switch. At the end of the day, that's where it comes out. That's what's really helped them out compared to what happened to the Wii U.
No, for sure. I think a little off topic here, but I think the Steam Station, whatever they're calling Steam Deck, will help push the Switch to get its become more of a power player for those third-party games, because I feel like they're going to feel some of the heat there of there's another choice that has a strong game library for them to go against. Yeah.
I mean, if the Switch Pro really does exist, I mean, I don't know if was supposed to be this OLED that's coming out, or if they still really are thinking of building like a 4K device for that. Then there's your answer to do it. If they want to be in parity with these third party and indie games. I mean, the indie games, they never really had a problem, because that's where that the model of like indie games went from, like, if you wanted to play indie, you play on a Switch. I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon, even with Steam Deck can play.
No, it'll be interesting to see, but I'm excited. I'm hoping it forces Switch to up their game some, because I'd like to see more third-party support and a stronger playing of third-party games that I want to take on the go with me. Because I'm not getting a deck anytime soon, just because of everything else I want to get in life. So I would like my Switch to be able to give me some of that competition when I want it more.
Well, mine broke, and I don't want to give Nintendo any more money. Like, their problem is always replace things. Joy-Con's drifting? Sorry, got to replace it. That can't stream on TV anymore? Got to replace it. Like, no, I get your strategy, Nintendo, and it's not working.
See, I haven't had any problems with my Switch or my wife's Switch. They both are working lovely still.
I have one Joy-Con I had to replace, and that was it. It's been good since. But the dock, I'm like, obviously I haven't had to travel because of COVID, but when that comes into play, that's primarily the only time I really play it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
gotcha. So let's jump into my first trailer that got me excited at E3.
Let's do it.
The Lost Ark is now but a myth. A relic from the half-remembered Chain War. But now, our world has been torn once again. The demons have returned. With roaring destruction and waking nightmares. Now, out of hope, we turn to myths to prove that not all is lost.
Mm-hmm.
So this one has me excited because it's an MMO, and I am apparently an MMO junkie. But this one's been around for a while, but it's been a Korean-only title for the longest time. And growing up through WoW and everything like that, it was always kind of like if WoW took a dip, or kind of the hipster WoW players would all be like, Lost Ark is the thing to play, kind of thing. But it's was never like an official Western release. It was all still in Korean, so anything I've ever seen of it, like I have no clue what's going on. And so I'm excited that it's coming to the West now. And I'm excited because, it's kind of like almost like a fantasy Diablo mashup of an MMO, which is almost what I wanted like Diablo 3 to be when they said they're going to be online only. That's kind of what everybody envisioned, was more of like an MMO meets Diablo type feeling to it, and that's not what we got. But it has been the rumored kind of WoW killer from the East that never really got traction in the West or attempted to be ported over. So I'm kind of excited to play it just because it's been one of those games that's always been on my radar, but hasn't been something I've gotten to dive into because I didn't understand any of the cutscenes or the story or whatever was going on. So I'm kind of excited to finally get to play it and see, is the hype real? It was just kind of one of those things that was hype because it was the cool thing and the only competition because of how huge the player base was in Korea, that people thought it could be a WoW killer.
Yeah, when I first saw this on your list, I was like, first of all, this is definitely a Gary game.
Yep.
I just knew right away it had to be in that top of the list because you are an MMO junkie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to say too, I don't get to play these as much as I want, especially nowadays with work and a kid and engulfing my life. But
yeah,
I did. The thing that definitely did stand out to me to you was the Diablo style gameplay. Like most MMOs tend to really take its time to build and fight in there, whereas this one was like, oh wow, this seems way more fast paced than I'm used to in an MMO. And then that's when it kind of dawned on me, oh, they're going for the Diablo style, which is definitely a good way to stand out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm just excited to play it. I'm hoping it lives up to the hype. I don't know when I'm going to add another MMO to my life because Final Fantasy 14 has me completely sucked in at the moment. But it's definitely something that I want to at least start dabbling in and seeing what it has to offer when it comes out.
Hmm.
because that has me quite curious.
This game is like this game's been development since like 2014. I want to say is what I
Yeah.
remember.
And I mean, the interesting thing with it too is going to be is they have a ton of content they can just port over because it's been going in Korea for years.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So you could just start moving the expansions over.
So has it really just been them about translating this to Western audiences? Is that what this has been about?
Yeah, they're kind of a re-release.
Oh, okay.
To the Western.
Because originally I thought, because this is being published by Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, my thought process is that because they had a game last year, Crucible, I think it was, that didn't do well, and they actually took it off the shelf for, metaphorically speaking, it was a digital game. But my thought process was that they wanted to take more time to develop this game here. But it turns out it's more just in publishing it than anything else. It sounds like
it's been out since I believe I want to say 2015, 2016-ish.
Okay.
So it's been out there for a while, and it has I think an expansion or two under its belt already there.
Okay.
So it has it has an established fan base too. So you're bringing something over that's not, which I think is smart for Amazon to have something that's always kind of had that fringe hype in the MMO community, to then bring it to them instead of trying to start from scratch and build it up, because that's hard to do in the MMO genre, to really capture people, because it's all about for an MMO to work, you have to have people playing it. Right. Because nobody wants to play a dead MMO, because it's all about, look how far I've gotten compared to you kind of mentality and sharing those experiences with people. So if you start a brand new MMO, it takes people a while to pick it up because they want to make sure it's going to make it. But then by them waiting to pick it up, you're also putting it in a death cycle. So
yeah,
it's kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy at that point of it failing. So having kind of that backing and that fringe kind of interest in it, I think will help them finally have something that might stick.
I mean, does it advertise itself as like you can do a lot of stuff solo?
Honestly, I don't know that much about it, because it's always just been a fringe thing.
Okay.
I feel like it's a bit more in the vein of Warcraft than Final Fantasy 14 when it comes to that, where it focuses more on, I think it has more story because it's definitely more of that JRPG type thing, but I think it is more focused on like dungeons and group content.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm like most MMOs, they tend to have that there. I just didn't know it was like primarily going to be a lot of solo stuff like Final Fantasy 14 does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of Final Fantasy 14's differentiator, is it has the group content, but it's not as required as in other MMOs. So it'd be interesting to see. And if it has good PvP, it's going to pick up a lot of people. Because that's been where 14 has kind of failed, is it hasn't picked up the PvP crowd because it's not great for PvP.
Yeah. Well, different thing it's going for. I think they knew going into that PvP wasn't its thing.
Yeah. But that's been where where Warcraft is kind of keeping its hold, is it still does have PvP, even as awful as it is. It's still built better to work for PvP than 14 is. But it's going to be interesting to see, because it's a good time, especially if it does make the fall release of 2021, because WoW's next expansion isn't going to come out until probably earliest December, January, if they can get their act together, because they haven't even fully announced the next expansion yet, and everybody kind of feels like 9.2 is going to be the last patch for it because of how long it took them to get their first patch out. So it's prime time with a bunch of disgruntled MMO people to kind of put one on the market that people are going to want to try. Yeah.
Well, and COVID too, probably maybe pushing that a little bit too, but yeah, your point still stands.
But so it'd be interesting to see where that goes. So let's see what you had on next here. I know this one.
Do you?
I did. I was going back and forth on if this was going to make my list or not.
The tarnished will soon return, guided by grace once lost. The Golden Order is broken to its core.
the token vibe at this point.
One ring to bind us and take our money.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition. Someone must extinguish thy flame.
They will fight, and they will die. In an unending curse.
The horse jumping vertically. Come on.
Yeah.
You get more hype than that. And this part.
Yeah.
Wait for it. There it is. Good lord.
Zeus Dragon.
For how else is a champion or a lord to be born?
Well, a lowly tarnished, playing as a lord. I command thee now!
Brandish the Elden Ring. For all of us.
Good God. Man. I, yeah.
I thought at first when I saw this, like I totally went Lord of the Rings on my initial, like the beginning part, and I totally thought like, oh, that's kind of a cool concept. Playing as one of those like, what are they called from the ghostly things that are drawn to the ring?
Oh, the Nazgul?
Yeah, Nazgul. Like that was my head first one. Was like, oh, you're basically playing as a Nazgul. But I really liked it as it went on because it definitely has that Eldritch Lovecraftian horror vibe to it, which I am a big fan of.
Yeah. It really feels like they're taking all the elements of Dark Souls and Bloodborne and birthed this.
Yeah.
So, and I would imagine they will probably make the gameplay a little bit like Sekiro, where it's going to have the hard vibe as typical From Software games can be, but I feel like they're just going to just mush it all together and come out like this and be kind of the epic Elden Ring adventure that's going to be.
Yeah. No, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Very kind of action RPG, Dark Souls type feel to it. I've actually known about this game for a while because it was on our radar when I was working for the game studio.
Oh, really? Oh,
because
interesting.
it fell into the same kind of genre that we were building in towards. Very different styles of games, but it was kind of on the radar of another studio working on a similar project that we kept an eye on. I love their approach to it. I kind of like the King Arthur meets Lovecraft type feel of it.
Yeah.
It'll be, and it definitely looks like it's going to go very much that Dark Souls, big bad monsters, hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where we were, making the point earlier about Final Fantasy Origin and the game I couldn't mention because we were going to get to it now.
Yep.
Whereas, like, you look at that game, I mean, yeah, it's, if anything, you could accuse it of being just more of the same because it really is not. It doesn't seem to be pushing the graphical envelope, but this is more based on. It's never really done that anyway. It's really more just the design of the world, the monsters, and the lore, and that's been From Software's bread and butter for like the last almost 10 years now with the games they've been putting out. You can forgive all that when you look at the kind of the lore and world that they create all the time. And that's what really matters the most there. And that's where Final Fantasy Origin, as we were speaking to earlier, really couldn't stand out in that, or at least they didn't, attempt to show it. Maybe it's in there, and they just didn't show it in marketing for some reason. But I mean, you had your chance to do it, and you didn't do it. This one did, and that's why Elden Ring was just high up on my list because of that.
Yeah, no, it pulls you in. It's captivating. You want to know more. Like, what is a tarnished? What are you pretending to be? Like, are you trying to like ascend to be like that creepy dude with 800 hands coming out of his horse?
Yeah.
Like, is that our goal? Is that our final form in the game kind of thing?
I mean, if the goal is to get a wolf on your arm that shoots flames in the air, then I'm totally getting Elden Ring for that.
Yeah. It asks, I like that it kind of tells you a story, but it ends up leaving with more questions that you want to know about.
Yeah, well, it's the show
enough story, but not enough to be like, this is what's happening.
It's the show and tell model, basically.
Yeah.
Like recently, my Twitch stream, I went through both Little Nightmares games, and it's exactly like that. Obviously, much different graphical art style because these are indie games, but there was no dialogue. There was nothing of like a story like actually being told to you. You had to, as you progress through the levels, you had to guess and build the story in your own mind to figure out what's going on. And I feel like that this game and every other game that these guys have done, from Dark Souls to Bloodborne and beyond, that's pretty much been how they do it. And that's why, beyond just the challenge factor that people love playing these games here, I think that's another reason why people are drawn to these kind of worlds.
Yeah, because they give you enough framework to understand what kind of world you're playing in, but then it's kind of up to you to do like the exploring, to find like the journals and different things like that, and then dig into the lore on your own if you want to, or you can just do super challenging gameplay with some structure to it compared to just kind of being the goal of kill chaos.
And maybe that's the meta point. That's the meta part of Elden Ring, is that chaos actually transfers between both games, and you have to see which one you want to beat the most. I don't know. No, I'm excited for this, man. Here, I mean, open world Dark Souls. I mean, I can't go wrong with that. I mean, I presume that's why the horse exists in the game, so you can traverse quicker like that. Yeah, I mean, my only thing will be like, I mean, you saw in the beginning there, it's From Software and George R.R. Martin presents this game here. I do question how much George R.R. Martin was actually involved. I feel like he was probably more than just a consultant. Yeah. He was like, here are some bits and things you could use to build the world, and you give me my check and I got to go. So. Yeah,
I feel like he was more of just the make sure your dragons come sooner than the end of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And take all this and finish the story, because I still got Game of Thrones to finish.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel like it was more of the framework for probably some of the world building than anything else that he'd be a part of. And maybe some of the just like the overarching, like, here's the legend of it, to give you that context and then go from there. But I'm excited to see what it does. I think it's definitely going to be an interesting one to dive into.
Yep, and January. That's not terribly far. I was surprised. I was surprised because the game got announced at E3 2019. I don't know how long they were building on before that, but it feels pretty soon. I mean, these guys are master crafters, so who am I to doubt if they feel like they're going to hit a certain date? Would not surprise me if it pushes a little bit into the spring as opposed to January, but still, I mean, getting it out 2022 in general is there's no small feat. So kudos to these guys if it comes out. I'm definitely there to play it day one.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like they probably have, for this type of game, a lot of assets that they could build on top of as far as like their rigging and stuff goes. That probably saves them a lot of time, since they kind of build these similar but unique games. Oh, yeah. I feel like there's definitely a lot of reusable assets, which works in their favor.
I mean, I want to see a From Software Bible of artwork, like those art concept books that come out there. I mean, they must have some even crazier ideas than what we've seen in the game so far. I would love to see what got in the cutting floor. Yeah,
that would be pretty cool to see. All right, my second one. This one was definitely an indie one that excited me. And totally played to my steampunk love of everything steampunk.
It fits you well.
blue flying bug monster that was So, I mean, the early access is already out, which is on my list of things to get.
I was going to say, because a couple of Twitch streamers I watch, I think they started playing it that day it came out. And once I saw the date, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I remember them playing it on date. So,
but I mean, it's steampunk with some like Lovecraftian Eldritch horror feel to it. Very kind of like Contra Metal Slugs with some RPG elements. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And
yeah.
I want an airship.
Who doesn't? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I watched this trailer beforehand, I was like, oh, interesting. Like, first of all, like I said, I mean, I think I saw people play this. And I was like, yeah, I had some of those same vibes of like Metal Slug as well, which is like a huge arcade game for me back in the day. I love playing it so much. So I was like, and to introduce strategy elements to this, this is pretty good. This I can see this working. I definitely, for you being a huge steampunk fan, it's just probably just 10 times more. But like the strategy elements of this seem very intriguing.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious about this one, and it's one of the things on my list to get on Steam when I have more time to play a bit and do some videos around. But it when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is made for me.
He had to be resuscitated, said the narrator.
It was exciting. So I was like, that's all my jams in one. There's RPG elements, there's steampunk, there's big monsters coming out of the sky. Give it to me.
Well, I mean, you can do it now since it's in early access.
Yep. Now it's just finding time to play everything that I want.
I know. You had to be a Final Fantasy 14 fan. That's your problem.
Yep. That's what's happened.
But I can see, I mean, I like where it's going there. I mean, it seems to have enough variety with, going to different worlds in the air. And it looks like you got to fight some alien invasion. I don't know if it was like coming from a dimension or up in the sky or something there. But I mean, I wonder if they'll introduce you to different worlds. Yeah, I don't know.
It felt very old god Lovecraftian at times with kind of how they portrayed the portals and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm excited for it. It looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. So cool. Your number one pick is up next.
We begin by hearing an old, wise-sounding voice.
I love this trailer.
When we see a quiet, peaceful setting.
Like
this will make our game seem big and important. Now, something must break the serenity. Will this creature be in the game? No. Say goodbye to it forever. Suddenly, and for no reason, people running. These pointless slow-motion shots make everything seem cool and should bolster pre-sale numbers. That wah sound can mean only one thing. We must gaze over an epic shot of a world, and there should be lens flares. Now we see our hero, but only their silhouette, because the developers haven't finished the design or finished the story. or finished any gameplay that's actually ready to show. In fact, the only thing they have finished is the title.
Unbelievable. How is that not number one in anybody's list? I don't know what's wrong with people.
No, I love seeing that trailer. I was dying the first time I saw it because it's just it points out everything that like every game company does.
Yep, especially around this time.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing there to see. They even admitted themselves in the trailer.
Yeah.
There's nothing to show. There's not even a protagonist or gameplay.
Yeah,
But it's like
it's coming though.
it's coming. That's all you got to worry about, guys. Don't worry. After we finish our 5 other games, because that's what Obsidian's doing right now. They got 5 projects they're working on. God bless you guys. I mean, if there's anyone who can do it, it's Obsidian. I'm a huge fan of their games, from Pillars of Eternity to Tyranny and so on. But God, the trailer is just fantastic.
I mean, the first one was amazing. With
yeah. I mean, I didn't finish it, but the first few hours, I was like, yeah, this is a with enough money and time, they could like make this into a masterpiece. Like, it was just this close to like perfection for me. It's just like felt like that, the game, the first Outer Worlds was a little like janky in like the shooting elements of it.
Yeah,
really, you played that game for the story and the choices.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could technically almost play the whole game without shooting if you wanted to.
You could, yeah. You don't have to kill everybody. You can just do all the choices.
Yeah, and that was that. I think that's the cool part. Is it was a massive world, and you felt like every choice you made mattered.
Yeah,
because it would shift something somewhere down the line that you suddenly be like, "Oh crap! I shouldn't have screwed those guys over."
Yeah. It was weaved. It was weaved so well. Like you sometimes the repercussion would be right away. Sometimes it would be like 10 hours later.
Yeah,
it was like Obsidian's script for that game was so tight. And why should I be surprised for the guys who make Pillars of Eternity, which is so heralded? These guys are veterans at this stuff. I should never doubt them when it comes to the things.
It was the kind of like choice impact I always wanted for Mass Effect, but never quite got. In kind of that sci-fi setting where it was just like you felt like your choices actually mattered, which is what makes it such a cool game, in my opinion, to play. Is you feel like everything you do actually impacts the story.
Yeah, I mean, Mass Effect. I mean, you had some of that there. I mean, they got caught on themselves in the fact that you had to do it over 3 games, and I don't think anyone was going to be happy at the end of the day with how it ended. Whereas, this is one and done, and you can control it in such a way that, maybe you're disappointed in some of the decisions you made, but you also realize it's your fault if you did it. It's not the developer's fault; it's your fault.
Now, it'd be interesting if they took the Mass Effect approach to this, and whatever shape you left the world in Outer Worlds 1 is where you have to start in this one.
That could be interesting.
Load your save data, and if you made a mess of the world but managed to complete it, now you're starting from scratch in the mess of a universe you created. Or if you had a more peaceful universe by the end of it, you're starting out in maybe a slightly better position before you could cause havoc.
It's a nice, interesting thing. I could see them doing that. Master that a little bit better on BioWare.
But on the topic of BioWare, there is a Mass Effect 4 coming out now.
Yeah,
hopefully fix the Andromeda and Mass Effect 3 issues.
You're going to wait a while for that, just so you're aware.
Oh, I know.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they could take some lessons from these other sci-fi games that have come out since then that have been a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know. To me, they could try. I mean, for all Andromeda's faults there, I mean, it was a pretty tightly played game. Like, I had no problem. I had no problems playing the game. It's just the story was boring as hell. If they can like get on that and do this rightly with Mass Effect 4, then sure, we're all set.
Yeah,
it's just hard to really see that now with failing Andromeda and failing Anthem. Even the reboot of Anthem not getting out too. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I think really the telling point is going to be this next Dragon Age game.
Yeah.
Like if they could nail that, I mean, I've never been the biggest Dragon Age fan, mostly because I'm more sci-fi than fantasy, but I still like some of the Dragon Age stuff. If the real telling of that is going to be how well Dragon Age does. If the Dragon Age story does well, I feel like the Mass Effect sequel will probably do well too.
Yeah. My problem with the Dragon Age has just always been they came out too close to an Elder Scrolls game, I felt like. And I'm always going to go Elder Scrolls first. So either there was an Elder Scrolls game I was still in the middle of, or I just finished, so I didn't want to go for a rinse and repeat kind of feeling.
True. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's hard, especially when a game like Skyrim has lasted as long as it has. Since, and who knows when 6 is coming out. I mean it's I mean the changing of the guard happens there. I mean BioWare is not the same company that I recognized when I was playing games like Knights of the Old Republic or Jade Empire, for example. A lot of those people have been long gone for a while. I mean, I would say at this point, a lot of the Western RPG stuff that can do that stuff is sitting in the Xbox brand with people like Obsidian and Bethesda. There's even been rumors that at some point have once Obsidian is finishing this Avowed game that they're working on right now that's coming out first. There's been rumors that they potentially may take over the Fallout franchise.
I mean, that would be a smart thing to do.
I mean, people have heralded New Vegas so much from Fallout, so and the Obsidian guy's doing that there, so it would make sense to me too.
And that's the interesting thing too, is how you have like the Obsidians that have managed to kind of keep their core while being part of these bigger companies, and then you have companies like BioWare and Blizzard and other ones that just fell apart the second they got purchased and suddenly couldn't produce a good game if their life depended on it. And so it's interesting. I always kind of wonder about that. It's like, what makes this studio able to survive and stick to what made them great, and these other ones just completely fall apart as soon as they get invested in or bought up by these bigger companies.
Yeah, I mean, time's going to tell with Microsoft. I mean, they right now are saying they're hands off with all these companies they're doing here, so they're going to let them do their thing. But we know how corporate America works out there. Things can change on a dime very quickly. Things don't go a certain way here. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, to go back to BioWare, not to spend too much time on talking. I mean, we always like to make fun of EA for all the things they do, and rightfully so. They screwed up a lot between their the way they handle loot boxes, microtransactions, and how they handled the Star Wars license, for example. But I mean, I don't disagree with them the way they canceled that Anthem reboots, because I don't think there really was not a great plan with that as well. And BioWare, like I said, just as they've lost too many people to really keep that magic going like they were doing with the Mass Effect and Dragon Age franchise. Like, I think EA has been making right calls about doing some of these things to BioWare, and it's just going to be a shame. Like, if they don't nail these Dragon Age and Mass Effect sequels out of the park over the next 3 to 4 years, then I kind of fear, but I also kind of understand EA doing something about it.
Yeah, there won't be much of a BioWare left after that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I kind of always, that's just something with Obsidian that I always think about, is like, how have you not lost the magic yet after getting bought up like these other ones have?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same guys probably too. Like, these guys, supposedly the same team's been together for like over 20 years, is what I understand. So, I mean, it's always going to come down to your team's relationship and how your creativity is. And I think that's one of the reasons why people have loved them for so long. And hopefully, as we said, Microsoft will just let them do their thing and just be kind of that pipeline to get resources, and just let Obsidian be Obsidian. Yeah.
And I think the true test will be when they do have a misstep, because you can't be perfect every time out. And that seems to be where things start going bad, is when you hit that first misstep and then your corporate sponsor comes swooping in to save the day.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think also Microsoft's on a different playing field too, because they're out to really build Game Pass more than anything else. So they're, even if things don't really become successful at the onset,
it still gives them fodder for their.
Yeah, and like they can like keep pushing content on it, and they can keep it flowing on Game Pass too there. So they'll still be incentive to say, well, maybe this game didn't really live out the way I want it to be, but at least I didn't have to pay $70 for it.
Yeah. No, that's true. And that does, I think, lessen some of the blow for the Microsoft model as well, when you're not having to pay full price to get it every time.
Yeah.
Take some of that sting out.
Exactly. I mean, I was excited for this game here. I mean, again, there was nothing to show, but I think really at the end of the day, we know it's going to be just more Outer Worlds, just more refined, more tuned. We'll obviously see that as they start developing this more. But I mean, I loved what I saw. Just and obviously the meta commentary is what sold it more than anything else.
Going that Deadpool route almost with it.
Yep.
All right. And speaking of the Game Pass, is actually a good segue into my number one pick here, because that's how I actually got sucked into this franchise, was because I could get a handful of them free on Game Pass.
Let's do it.
I've become quite the JRPG fan, if you haven't noticed.
I couldn't have guessed that with you.
Pretty fancy place they got here.
Harmony and coexistence between the Renans and the Danans.
I'm Dohalim Ilkaris. Should you need my skills on the battlefield, all I care for is maintaining peace.
I'm Captain Kisara of the Eldermenancia Guard. Ha! Flare the Malisa! From now on, when I fight to protect my dream.
Well, this crew just gets bigger and bigger.
The Renans. Seems the rumors you were running with them were true.
Get toasty!
Bird strike!
Been looking for you.
Bullock, get the hell out of my realm! This is Tannen's realm and it's ours, understand?
Is it over? It's only just begun.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so I got into the Tales of series when a bunch of them came on, or a couple of them came on Game Pass, and I started playing them at nights. And I was like, this is fun. I'm liking this. And I've been digging deeper into it and playing some of them on the side and stuff before 14 decided to suck my life away. But I've enjoyed every game in the series I've played so far, and I'm kind of excited to get to play one at launch versus kind of finding it years later. And I've really kind of gotten sucked into the kind of the JRPG play style of these types of games. In between 14 and then I found I've gotten hooked on a couple of them on the Switch and stuff like that and things. So it's been an interesting journey, kind of moving away from the more Morrowind, Elder Scrolls type games into more JRPGs with the more story, kind of more of like the team combat elements and things like that.
I have not played a Tales game since probably Tales of Symphonia from the GameCube is where we're dating ourselves here. I think that was probably like 2003, I want to say, 2004 that came out. So we're talking like 15 years here or so. That's amazing to me that this franchise has been going on as long as it has. I don't know how many games have come out since I played that one. I'm sure a lot, especially in Japan, I'm sure. But just seeing that trailer again show up at Summer Games Fest, I was like, man, this is a good throwback. I remember loving this game back on the GameCube.
Yeah, because I believe it's the franchise started. Go Google, maybe. In 1995 on the Super Famicom.
Wow. So it didn't even make it the Super NES.
Yeah.
Wow.
It started in 1995 on that, and then it first showed up in like 2006 on the Game Boy Advance in the States.
Huh. Man, so we're talking 25 years here.
Well, actually, that one got ported over. There was one on the PlayStation in 1997 too.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I always associated being a PlayStation franchise, and I was surprised it came in GameCube with Symphonia. I didn't realize Super Famicom was dating it back that far.
Yeah, that's where it started, and then Tales of Symphonia was the first 3D entry in the series, actually.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Everything before that was all 2D stuff.
Oh, okay. Symphonia was the first 3D one. That's interesting. Yep. Didn't even know that. Huh.
That's what Wikipedia tells me, and Wikipedia is never wrong.
Yeah, well, if it's on the internet, it's true. Let's understand
Exactly.
it. So, yeah, I mean, personally, I definitely see this being a game for you two there. I mean, I definitely would. I put it up there as well too. I'm probably somewhere in the list. It's just a lot of other games there in the list just would put me more in the top 3 than this. Yeah, I just remember. I mean, it seems like it has a lot of those aesthetics that I remember from Symphonia, like very, very basic JRPG like, but more on the action front than the turn-based front, which is good.
Yeah,
because I think that's really started to evolve more when Final Fantasy 12 came out. So they kind of like evolved that through all the other JRPGs that are out there. And I feel like it's at least from like story-based standpoint, it seems to be really going darker in its direction there. I mean, again, we're talking like 15-year difference since the last time I played the Tales game, so I don't know in between what if it ever did become dark at some point. But at least from now on, I was like, wow, the evolution of this is pretty fascinating. To see where it is today.
No, it's been an interesting evolution just to start digging into it and getting into it and just seeing just kind of the different elements start to come together from the other ones I've played. And I've come to really like the art style because it stands out of being very unique compared to other games too. Yeah.
I mean, my one fear of that franchise is like if it's going to get too much of a comparison to Genshin Impact, which it's exploded in popularity last year because of its free to play model, but because of a lot of the anime tendencies of the way it's built there. I wonder if it'll run into that a little bit more, that impact, because Genshin Impact like really blew up at the end of last year, and I wonder if people will wonder and actually be able to try that, knowing like some of the like long lasting content value that Genshin Impact is currently giving players today.
I actually just downloaded that on my phone to do some reviews on it.
Oh wow! Okay, I actually didn't even know it was on the phone. That's interesting.
I just added it yesterday to start doing a little bit of just exploring in it to do a review on it down the road and get my feet wet in that world.
Nice.
In all my downtime that I have in life, in my need to make content constantly.
Sleep is great when you're dead. That's all you need to worry about.
Yeah, just gotta get the wife on board with that plan.
She's probably not. My wife isn't, so don't worry.
I don't see her being a big fan of me just sitting next to her in bed playing that while she's trying to sleep.
One more hour. And
I'll be done, I promise, babe. I just gotta level up one more time.
Yeah. You get the cat off the bed, I have to stick my feet out.
Yep.
Play this the right way.
Get one of those gaming controllers for my iPhone to plug it into.
I've been doing it ever since I discovered xCloud, so don't worry.
Yeah. But those are my top 3 picks. I'm excited for them. A lot of good games coming out as well. A lot that kind of came out of E3 of like, it has potential, but wait and see on them.
Yeah, again, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, for what it was, being a virtual convention because of COVID and the fact that COVID really pushed a lot of people to adjust differently. Like there's a lot of studios who like literally had to take like 6 to 8 months to adjust to working at home there. So there's a lot of time you're losing development wise and design wise when you're doing that time. So that's why just the fact that we're seeing as it is, that the stuff we got is amazing. But that's the thing. But the other thing too is that a lot of stuff you saw there, some of it's 2021, but there's a ton of that stuff coming out in 2022. So next year, look the hell out. It is going to be a wild year next year with releases.
Yeah. Because I feel like next year is going to be big because there's going to be a lot of studios trying to make their money back for what they lost in 2020. Because I feel like their plans got pushed off a year or two, and now they're going to be getting out what they can in 2021, and then 2022 will be the let's make our money back year. Yeah,
totally. I know it's like I said, there's standouts, even just the top 3. I mean, I could talk about so many others that really caught my radar. I mean, obviously don't have too much time to do it, but like, games like Redfall really stood out to me from Arcane. Like, I mean, gameplay, but just anything Arcane does, I'm a fan of what they did with games like Prey and Dishonored. So I'm definitely on board to seeing what this co-op vampire shooter is going to be.
Yeah, that looked interesting because it looked like almost like a co-op Overwatch PvE type game.
Yeah, I mean, first people were wondering at first if it was going on the Left 4 Dead bandwagon because we're getting like Back 4 Blood later this year. Seems like Left 4 Dead's has got like this big comeback of late, but I felt like you it was kind of going to be a little similar to that, but more of the Overwatch aesthetic.
I think it has more the dark elements of like the Left 4 Dead, but it's going to have more of that like team-based power up.
Yeah.
Kind of the PvE side of very much what Overwatch 2 is probably going to be.
Probably. Most likely, yeah. But I mean, there's so many standouts from like that. I could have easily put up there too. Games like The Place, games like Stalker 2, Battlefield 2042, for example. I mean,
Stalker 2 does have me worried.
Stalker 2 has you worried?
Yeah. It seemed like they're going a lot more gunplay heavy on it than the first one, which I feel like was kind of what set it apart. Was it wasn't just a run and gunner shooter type game.
Maybe. I mean, maybe part of that's because they want to show off the new next gen tech. But I mean, there were some elements there, like you saw them like throwing the screws into the
they had the elements there. I'm just hoping that this was just more of a hype trailer for the new engine and cool shots and stuff like that than how the game is going to be the majority of.
Yeah. Well, the game's not out until April, so there's plenty of time to show some different things if it's in there. I mean, like I said, for what it was this year, given the limitations, like at least from Xbox Bethesda, they definitely I gave a thumbs up to them for sure. And some of Summer Games Fest, like a lot of that stuff we showed with Summer Games Fest too. Keely did a pretty good job of showcasing some of that stuff too.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see what the game industry does post-COVID, where things go, especially with Netflix adding their arcade type thing potentially and Game Pass kind of becoming Microsoft's business model. It's going to be interesting to see how PlayStation and Nintendo answer those type things because Game Pass is such a good deal right now, and most of this probably going to end up on Game Pass. It's just going to bolster the strength of that.
Yeah. I mean, if Netflix wants to be on Game Pass, I mean, EA's got EA Play on Game Pass. I'm totally on board for that. They'll definitely save on subscription money, that's for sure. So,